All right. Happy Friday, everybody. It is the end of July and it is sweltering hot out here in Seattle. I know I've said that every single time for the past couple of episodes, but it remains super hot. In Seattle, we really can't take any temperature above 80. That's kind of our limit. So we're kind of pansies up here. But today's going to be a good episode. We got Kyle Seyboth with us from Rhode Island. Kyle is an expert. He crushing it as an agent. They've done 200 flips. About 75 to 100 a year, and now they're in development. So they got breadth of experience, a lot to dive into here. Kyle, thank you very much for hopping on the show.
Hey, thank you so much for having me. Appreciate the time, and hopefully we go out there and get some information that helps add some value and give some nuggets to you guys. So, again, we're doing this every single day. We're not just looking at spreadsheets. We're not just analyzing. We're taking massive action.
Right on. Kyle, I told you before we got on here, we like to start with stories. So take us to the beginning of your story. How'd you get started in real estate?
Yeah, so got started about 14 years ago. Started off, purchased a single family residence and was able to utilize what's called the first time home buyer program here in Rhode Island. It was 100% financing.
Oh, wow. 100%.
Yeah, 100% financing, not even FHA. They did a second on the 3.5% down. So ended up grabbing it that way and bought something at that time when the market was really hot, bought something that needed some value, needed some work, and got into that single family. And then from there, a couple years later, tried out a 4-unit with some private funds for the first time. And then since then, probably acquired anywhere from 500 to 1,000 buildings, not units, but buildings in the last 10 years. Right now, we're averaging 75 to 125 flips a year. I like to buy non-retail multifamily. So if it's on the market, I really don't want to touch it unless it's in a zone that's Airbnb. And now we're looking at development of other buildings that had different usage, and we're turning them into residential because there's a huge demand, there's a lack of supply, and there's a lot of opportunity in that space. So I found that to be very helpful, and it's the game I know, so I try to play it as well as I can.
Nice, man. Yeah, it sounds like you're doing a great job. So it sounds you started with one single family, then went to a 4-unit, and I mean, it sounds like you guys have been crushing it since then. What was the inflection point for you guys? I mean, you're a broker as well. Was there a point, anything specifically that you can kind of pinpoint that allowed you to kind of take your business to the next level?
So I would say for me on the sales side, I went from 7 houses a year selling to my best year was 575, and that's just me as an individual agent. So that was a different path, a different game, a different strategy, and marketing expenses that I spent there. On the investing side, for me, the inflection point was understanding private money, understanding OPM, understanding how to utilize other people's money and turn that into money for me in the future. And I think that was so foreign to me when, where I grew up and how I grew up was you never borrow money from anyone. You never want to owe anyone any money. And I'm at the position now where I probably have 100 to 200 million dollars in debt on either private loans or long-term debt on properties. And I want 200 to 300 to 400 to 500 to $1 billion in debt because that's the game. The game is to use other people's money to increase cash flow. For me right now, cash flow is everything, right? So passive income, cash flow. I've got high goals on the passive income side and just trying to continue to grow that and understand how valuable that is in the future. But taking that old school mentality of borrowing money or letting people borrow money is bad and transforming that into how can you leverage as much money as you can to generate more income on a monthly basis.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, it's really hard if you grow up in an environment in a family who does not have a very abundant mindset when it comes to finances. If they have, a limited mindset and they think that taking debt is a liability, then it's really hard to break out of that. And so in order to break out of it, at least, I went through the same thing, and I found that the easiest way to do it is just to do it and then see the results. So take debt on a property, see that there's still cash flow, see that it's actually making you money and not losing you money, and it's making the people who gave you that money. And so it's a win-win for everybody involved. And yeah, that's a big mindset shift. I feel like helps a lot of people get to that next level. So I want to talk a little bit about your strategy. You guys do a lot of stuff. I heard you say Airbnb zones, so you guys do Airbnbs as well, and development. Specifically, you said residential conversions. That's kind of a hot topic these days because a lot of major metros out there are, they have a constraint in the supply of housing, and they just don't have enough housing out there. But there's a lot of buildings that are kind of just sitting, not being used. And so they're ripe for conversion. How do you decide which properties to look at for conversion into multifamily, and which one kind of fits your bill?
So I look at it from multiple kind of avenues. Number one, there's an intuition factor. I have such a good understanding of our localized market that when I look at it locally, I understand where the supply demand and where that bottleneck is. And those are the areas I'm targeting. So when something comes available in that space, whether on or off market, I'm ready to pounce. The second thing is it's just a simple math equation, right? How many square feet do I need and how many units can I get out of that amount of square feet? And then what is my cost to construct a unit or a square footage rather? What's that cost per unit? And then my strategy is one of two things. Either I recapitalize and keep the property, pay off my LPs and move forward, or I sell the individual units as condos and I capitalize there. So if either one of those two things, checks off, I'm going to move forward. And I think it gets to the fact of the next part is how do you raise the funds? And I think that's what I figure out next. So I put the deal under agreement, go through my due diligence, and then figure out how to get the funds. And once I figure out how to get the funds and where they're coming from, I execute and I take massive action and I don't hold back. And I don't believe in the fact that, you have to analyze things 100, 200, 300 times. Like I analyze something relatively quickly. And for the most part, I understand if it makes sense or not. And I make a decision and I move on. So I never get paralyzed by the analytics or the analysis that goes into these properties and these deals. So, I think that's really important to understand that at the end of the day, when you look at a development or you're looking at a building that you're going to convert to residential, number one is the demand there. Number two, what's my cost to construct? And number three, what is it worth when it's done? And that's a simple cap rate equation. If you can't figure those three things out in a relatively timely basis, then you're not an expert in your craft and you need to get help, and you shouldn't play in that field until you're willing to either A, make a mistake and move on, right? And understand that mistakes happen and understand that, it's a problem that you have to fix, or B, get a partner that can come in and help you.
Yep.
And I think those are the two options for you.
Yep. And it sounds like you have a leg up because you're really focused on one market. And I've seen, with investors, there's kind of two routes that people take. They either invest nationally and they kind of focus on an asset class, or they invest locally and they just buy anything they can with that super hyper specific knowledge on their metro. We take the kind of national approach, but I've definitely seen the downside of that because I've invested in areas that the numbers looked good, but I didn't know the specific market. I didn't know the street that I was investing in, and it kind of, turned around to bite me in the butt. Do you guys recommend, like, what do you see as the pros and the cons of investing only in your one market or investing outside of your market and just choosing an asset class to go after?
So my asset class is strictly residential.
Okay.
That's all I play in the space of. I don't play in flex. I don't play in industrial. I don't play in mom and pop commercial or big commercial. I just feel like for me, I understand the demand supply equation right now, and it's so heavily tilted towards demand versus supply that I'm willing to take that bet any day. Now, couple that forward with looking at a more localized approach to a national approach. The only way I'll go national is if I have good key partners in those areas that I can bring in and take on some equity. If those folks can put some money where their mouth is in an area they're pitching me, I'm willing to go national. For example, we're doing something in Georgia right now And the Georgia project's probably going to be 240 to 400 units that we're going to build ground up. Now,
Nice.
the only reason I'm doing that, it's outside of Atlanta. It's about 30 minutes south of Atlanta. And the reason we're doing that is because we partnered with a group of 3 people. And these 3 people have a very localized understanding of the market in Georgia. And they're putting up a half of the equity that we're putting up the other half. And I think that's important for me to understand. If they're willing to do it in their localized market, then I'm willing to take that bet as well. Now, if they sat on the sideline and were like, hey, here's a great deal, we don't want to do it, that makes my antenna go up. And that makes the red flag start going crazy, and I start kind of spinning my wheels. So I think the positive of the national market is more opportunity. I think the negative of the localized market is there's less opportunity and there's more competition. I know from going into the Georgia market, the competition for deals and the speed and the tenacity and the aggressiveness was just so lackluster compared to what we do here in the Northeast. So in New England, everyone's out for, cutting their neighbor's throat to get a deal, right? That's what it is. It's cutthroat out here. I mean, we're trying to get a deal. This morning somebody sent the deal over. I made a decision in 5 seconds. I'm buying it. It's Airbnb zone. I want it. I have 5 already over there. This will be number 6. It's a nice asset in the portfolio. Quick decision, move on. I never seen the house. I don't have to. I know what it can produce, right? So it's understanding a localized market and being an expert, but then being able to really jump when the time comes.
Yeah. Especially in those difficult markets, time is everything. Time's everything in every deal you do. But if you're in a really hyper competitive market, you definitely need to make quick decisions. So it sounds like you guys are on the right track there. You've already mentioned raising capital. That's one of the hurdles that a lot of people run into, and it kind of prevents them from moving forward because they're focused only on the money that they have versus the money that they can bring into the deal. So what is your tips to, people listening who haven't raised capital before and, they'd like to? What are your tips to begin that process?
You need to build immense trust in your capital partners. You need for these folks to feel like their money is good as gold when they give it to you. I've built immense trust in my capital partners. And what that means is at the end of the day, when someone's going to lend them money, they know I would rather give you my right arm than let you lose money on me and say, just walk away without the keys. That's not my moral compass. That's not how I operate. So until you get to that position where, you're not focused on, hey, if something goes wrong, how can I screw thy neighbor? Versus, hey, if something goes wrong, I'm putting my money where my mouth is, and I'm going to do everything possible to pay this person back if whatever happens, because that's not how I operate. And I think that trust is somewhat through osmosis kind of goes into the universe, and it gets passed on to your investing partners. And I think that's the key piece is you have to build relationships that are super strong. You have to be friendly, you have to be likable, you have to be trustworthy. And I think if you can have those factors and add that to your overall toolbox, you'll be in a really good position. Now, if you say to me, I can't build trust, well, then I say to you, there's something missing in your personality that doesn't allow people to give you capital, right? So if you're saying, hey, I'm struggling building trust with my partners, well, you may not have the experience needed. You may not have the name for, for where you are, that people know who you are, and you kind of built that marketing. So you need to do something different.
Yep. All right, man. I just took a peek at the clock. It looks like we're running it down. Before we move over, though, I want to ask one last question. You guys, I think you said 500 deals on the brokerage side you've done per year, which means you guys are experts at marketing. What is your favorite way to find new deals?
Every way. And what I mean by that is you got to have tentacles out in every sort of, we spend money on pay-per-click, we spend money on Google AdWords, we spend money on Facebook, we spend money on social landing pages, we spend money on Instagram. We have wholesalers on the street, we've got inside salespeople. I have every single facet or action covered of people possibly going out there to gain more deals. And I think that you're only as good as your last deal, but if you say no to a deal, there's a good chance that person doesn't bring it through to you again. So you got to make sure you're ready to go. You got plentiful capital, and there's plenty of ways to find deals. You just have to find what works in your localized market.
Nice. So you guys do everything. Is there one that you feel brings better results, or is it the kind of the amalgamation of everything put together?
I think on the sales side, it's our online marketing, our Zillow spend, some of our social media stuff. On the side of the investment side, it's certainly our wholesale connections. It's our connection
Hmm,
with wholesalers throughout the localized market that bring deals to me on a day-to-day basis. They know
nice.
we can close, they know that we're real, and if we put a number on it and we say we're going to do it, we're going to do it.
Yep. Yeah, that is so crucial for wholesalers. Just being able to actually close the deal. Once you close a deal with one wholesaler, that person's going to bring you every single deal they have going forward because they know that you can do it.
Correct.
I started wholesaling way back when, and there were people that I would send deals and they just, drag their feet and they wouldn't eventually close. They'd get under contract. And I learned quickly who was the actual closer and who wasn't. And so if you can close the deal with a wholesaler, that is definitely a way to bring more deals to you. All right, man, that wraps up the main sections. It's time to jump into the quick question round. Are you ready?
All right, let's do it.
Let's do it. Starts with books or any form of education. Give me 2 recommendations, one for general life wisdom, one for real estate specific.
General life wisdom. Follow Bradley on Instagram. I think the guy just he kind of totally sums up everything I believe in. He says everything that I've thought, and I think if you're looking to grow and outshoot your boundaries, that's what I would say there. Books. If you're in real estate on the sales side, the book that Gary Keller wrote, the Red Book, I think is probably the best book you could possibly read, and I think that's timeless. I don't think it changes.
Sweet.
Um, mhm.
And so you follow who on Instagram, you said?
Bradley,
Oh,
Brad,
Bradley.
yeah, Lee, Lea.
Gotcha. I thought that was one word, Bradley.
No, no, no.
All right. Sounds good. Moving us to the next question. This is for your younger self. So let's go back to the Kyle who had no experience in real estate. He was just looking at that first deal that he did 14 years ago. Go back to him, look him in the eye, give him one piece of advice moving forward.
Take chances and take a lot of them.
Nice, man. I
You
love it. That's solid advice, especially to any of you guys out there who have not done your first deal. If you've listened to more than one episode on the Real Estate Investing Club, you know that pretty much everybody who comes on the show says they wish they got started earlier. So if you're on the fence, you're thinking about getting a deal done, just get it done. I'm telling you, you will not regret it. Moves us to the third question. This is for your business. The first 3 positions you hire form the foundation of your business. So what were they for you? And would you do it differently if you did it again today?
admin, runner, transaction coordinator.
Runner. I haven't heard that phrase used. What is that for?
They run around and do all the dirty work.
Nice.
Take pictures of that, get readings on this, get that, figure out that, run here, go there, go do everything.
Nice. I love it. All right. This next question is about the U.S. Sounds like you guys have invested in other markets. So the United States is a big place. There's a lot of opportunity. Give me the single metro you're most excited about investing in today.
I think right now is that Georgia market. I feel like the labor cost is so low that it offsets anything we can do here in New England and Northeast. And I feel like the demand for housing as people migrate more down south, anything in that southern part of the U.S. is somewhere I'm focused.
Are you talking about Atlanta or is there a specific market within Georgia?
Atlanta,
Atlanta.
Covington, right
Oh,
outside of
yeah.
Atlanta. Yeah.
Yep. Sweet. All right. Next question is about your gifts. We are all gifted with strengths that we uniquely provide this world. So, what is your Superman strength?
My Superman strength is I can get people to do what I want, when I want, how I want. I have a ability to understand and read a room and value and become a chameleon in certain situations to get done things that I need to get done in a fashion of how I should have them done.
There you go. All right, next question. Not all deals go the way that we want them to go. Some of them, we kind of have to take a lesson out of that deal. So what was a deal that kind of hit you in the face, and what was the biggest lesson you learned from it?
I would say I'm doing it right now. I'm doing a major development deal and we put a cash offer on it, 600K, not a big deal. 60,000 square foot building, and we drastically underestimated the cost for remediation of asbestos.
Oof,
And
yeah.
our asbestos remediation number probably near half a 500,000. Yeah.
Wow,
Just to remediate.
500,000 for you said a 6,000 square foot unit
Yeah.
or building? Damn.
60,000, 500 grand.
That is crazy. I've actually never done asbestos remediation, and
Don't
I didn't
start
know it was
now.
that expensive.
So a huge miss on my end.
Yeah, that's kind of obscene, but that's one of the things that you learn that you really will only learn if you run into the situation.
We learned.
All right, that leads us to the last question. This is for the listeners. You've given us a lot to think about. I'm sure people want to reach out, get in contact with you. What is the best way for people to reach out?
Guys, hit me up on social media. I'm always on there. It's Kyle Seyboth or Seyboth Team, and it's Seyboth. You can email me at kyle@seybothteam.com. But again, social media, Facebook, Instagram, message me. We're all over it. I get a lot of stuff from these podcasts. So love to help, give you some advice, and you bring a deal. Let's go. Let's do it. I partner on deals all the time.
There you go. All right. So if you guys want to reach out to Kyle, just click the little more in the description. It'll pull down that full description. In there, you can find his links. So Kyle, that wraps it up. Thank you very much for hopping on the show.
All right, man. Thank you for having me. Hopefully this was helpful.
Absolutely. For everybody who's here with us today, thank you guys for showing up. You are the reason we do this. So if you guys have any questions whatsoever, reach out to me, Gabe at therealestateinvestingclub.com. And if you guys want to support the show, all we ask is you give us a like, subscribe, share, all that jazz. Other than that, I hope you guys have a great week. Keep rocking real estate, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.